welcome to the Let's Examine Addiction Honestly podcast. My name is Charles. Today we will be talking about my hopes for the podcast and the information we'll be going over throughout this series. Please understand that I am not a trained professional, and please do not use this podcast as an alternative to proven medical methods such as Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, therapy, rehab, etc. So my hopes for the podcast, I'm hoping to turn this podcast sort of into like a hub of information, connections, resources, stuff like that. Overall, I kind of want to be able to share my information, things I've gone through, maybe get stories from others who have faced addiction either directly or through a family member or friend, get stories about things that they've encountered, maybe resources that they know of that I might not, just because my personal experience is pretty limited to what I've been through and what I've experienced, and I'd love to get information from other people and have them be able to share their stories on everything that they've gone through. The outline will change definitely as I kind of evolve the podcast, get feedback from listeners, see what works and what doesn't, maybe get different guests on and see how they respond to the layout of the podcast, maybe things that they suggest that I change, and especially because I've never actually interviewed someone before in this manner. And while it does become a platform where I can interview people from different walks of life and different addictions that they've struggled, I'd also be interested in finding maybe even a co-host, somebody that when we don't have guests, we can bounce ideas back and forth, go through information, find resources such as research articles, maybe news articles of different things going on. If you're interested in interviewing or sharing your story, maybe information you have, please email me at letsexamineaddictionhonestly@gmail.com or the lehpodcast@gmail.com. So what will I be sharing from my own personal experience? I will be sharing my struggles with nicotine. I've actually smoked since I was 18. When I was in advanced individual training for the Army was the first time I actually ever picked up a cigarette, and I never actually fully inhaled until a few months later when I was actually deploying to Iraq, and my friends were making fun of me when we were in Qatar because I wasn't actually inhaling. So that's probably about the time my true addiction started, and I actually have been nicotine free for about over a year. So it's one of those things where I tried to quit for the longest time. It was hard, so I plan on sharing my struggles with that, what I used to help, information I found useful, information on smoking, stuff like that. I'll also be going over my battle with alcohol addiction. I guess this is kind of from the view of each individual person, but while it has definitely been an addiction and an issue, I have, I guess, been what would be a functioning alcoholic and definitely have toned down my drinking a lot within the last few years. So I'd also love to go over what I did with that, how I ended up achieving that, what I use every day to kind of help maintain, I guess it'd be intermittent sobriety, because at this point I do still occasionally drink. So understand that if you are listening and you are in active addiction, just know you are not going to be pushed away for that. Even if you relapse, you're always welcome here, and I always want to hear your story, and you'll never be judged based on that fact. And I'd also like to go over my addiction to technology, especially phones. Phones are a huge one. I constantly find myself going to like social media, different apps, games, just randomly without even thinking about it, so I know it's an addiction. I want to go over that and maybe give out resources and what I'm doing to try to help curb myself from that too. So over the next few podcasts, while I don't have any viewers at the moment, I'm going to go over like a brief history of the different substances, the addictions. Some of it will be pretty dry. It'll be like the effects of smoking, things that a lot of people who already smoke know about it, but it'll be just kind of a little overview of it. And then in between those, I'll go over my own personal connection to that. I also plan on going over my own stories from drinking, my attempts to get and remain sober, times I've relapsed, especially from smoking and drinking, maybe stories from my family, because my family's full of alcoholics. I'll share their stories, information about them. I also want to share my hopes for the future along with anybody who comes on. It's not as a way to gloat or to kind of bolster myself up, but it's also a way to show that we aren't just our failings, that we actually should celebrate our successes, that you remember that you can and do amazing things. I think about Jason Mewes all the time and everything he's been through and just how much he's done, and it amazes me because I absolutely love Jay and Silent Bob. It's one of the biggest memories I have from childhood, and he seems to celebrate his victories and know that it takes victories to stay sober from what I've seen. So I just want to take the chance to recognize those little victories until they become major victories, and that staying sober for a day eventually becomes a week. I mean, I didn't end up stop smoking overnight. It took a lot of different tries until I did finally quit smoking, which did end up becoming quitting cold turkey overnight, honestly. So that's kind of a bad example. For this community, this is definitely an open community that welcomes everyone regardless of their current battle with addiction, where you're at in your sobriety. There's no judgment based on the length of that sobriety, relapses, type of addiction. Everyone is welcome here. Just know you're loved, even if it may not seem it at the time, and everything can change. Even if your sobriety resets every day, you still won't be turned away. Your struggles may help somebody else. Coming on and sharing your story or your resources might bolster somebody else up to where they get over that line of addiction and get up on that ledge to sobriety, and then maybe they help you up that same ledge. So if you're still listening and like what you heard, please like, subscribe, email me in at letsexamineaddictionhonestly@gmail or the lehpodcast@gmail with any feedback, ideas, stories. If you know anybody who has a good story or has interest in being a co-host, please let them know to reach out to me and we can chat about everything. I look forward to sharing any information I find, sharing my stories, the issues I've encountered, everything. So thank you so much for listening. I hope that you'll come back again. And remember, as Alan Watts said, you are under no obligation to be the same person you were 5 minutes ago. Have a great rest of your day.